Hello, hello. First thing, let's talk about the most important aspect of Eden Editor, which, in my opinion, is when you click on the search bar in the top right to search for something, like car, do not press enter, ever. Never press the enter key when you're in Eden Editor, because when you do that, it'll waste your time, because then it'll launch the entire mission, and then you have to close the mission, and then go back into Eden Editor, and look at that, that was like 10 or 15 seconds-ish of time I could have spent doing literally anything else. So that's the most important thing, right? Okay, so in your case, Eden Editor, what you're trying to do with it is you're trying to take pictures and stuff, right? In order to do that, you need to make scenes. Sometimes you got to place trees and props and buildings and platforms and interior structure props and a lot of stuff, right? It's a lot of fucking around. But it's important because then your scene looks cooler because you have more stuff in your scene, and that's really awesome and epic, perchance. So let's go over basic controls real quick. Try not to skip ahead. I promise you I might show you something neat and cool and epic and something you might not know. So, basic controls. WASD to move your camera. Holding right click lets you move your camera around. You can zoom in and out with scroll wheel, but honestly, if you press and hold Z, you can go down, and if you press and hold Q, you can go up. Q and Z. Weird spots, I know, but you'll get used to them, I promise, right? That's another thing. First up here, we have transformation. We're gonna get Cube. We're gonna bring out our buddy Cube. You don't have to bring out Cube. You might not even have Cube, but that's not important, right? We have Cube here. He's our little buddy. So, ignoring literally everything else, you can click and drag on an object to translate it. And that means move it, like this way or this way, right? I'm translating the cube, or up and down. I don't know. We'll talk about that in a second, though. So, you have your cube. You can move it around. You can also rotate the cube by holding shift, and an arrow will be drawn between your mouse and your cursor, and you can rotate the guy. Look at him, he's fucking rotating. Look at him, that's fucking awesome. So you have your cube, and he's all rotated and like translated and shit. Isn't that fucking awesome? Cool. So let's say you want to take your cube and you move them somewhere. You want to put another cube and you want to stack cubes together. You want to line them up, and that's that's kind of a pain in the ass. It fucking sucks. There's a couple things you can do to make this job easier. One, you can not rotate your cube a whole bunch before doing that. Here's what I'm talking about, right? I just double-clicked type, init, transformation, control, states, all this stuff. There's a lot of like categories and stuff when you double-click on an object, or click on an object, right-click, go to attributions, or attributes, I mean. None of that's really important at the moment. What is most important is your object transformation. This allows you to control data. Like, this is its exact coordinates on the map, in its position, in its rotation. 131 tac 482. That's its rotation. It is 131 degrees, and all that stuff. Let's set it back to 0. And the reason to do that is so you can, have a nicer rotation. So, when you click on an object, you can open up your widgets. I called them gizmos earlier because I was thinking about the term it's used for in Blender, or the term used for it in Blender. In this case, a gizmo, a widget is the same fucking thing. It's a little like UI thing that pops up when you click on your object. This is your translation widget. It lets you move your cube perfectly in directions, right? Perfect, nice, smooth, excellent. But we also have our rotation widget. When you click on it, you can rotate the guy perfectly in just these directions. So I could rotate it on what was the Z axis. By holding shift. You can rotate it on the Z-axis, but you cannot rotate it normally by holding shift on the X or Y axis, and that's what this red line is, that's what this line is, etc., right? Helpful, handy dandy. We're going to reset it back to 0 just so it's exactly how we want it to be. Cool, great, that's awesome. So, by default, when you open Eden Editor, this is what happens when you try to raise and lower an object, right? You can raise and lower an object without using the translation widget, by the way, by clicking on the object, dragging to like drag it, and then holding up or holding left alt and moving it up and down to move it up and down, right? You'll notice these things. These are your vertical mode and your surface snapping. Only one of those makes any sense at all with its name. We'll talk about surface snapping, and now we'll talk about vertical mode. First of all, vertical mode does not allow you to move things, right? So you'll notice how it's a little like line going between a bump and a hill. What that means is your object is going to collide with things. It's going to collide with stuff. So if I make some stuff and try to collide it, it's gonna kind of just follow along it and slide around it and do. Which is handy dandy if you're placing like grass or something, or like an orange, or like an object, or like your 2001 Honda Civic. But it's really not fucking helpful when you're trying to place something like a Third Army Studios base plate, which is a really awesome prop because it's just a platform you can put things on and build stuff on top of. Great framework item, right? Oh, that's fucking inconvenient. Oh, shit. Because, little known fact, buildings are supposed to be vertical. And if you're trying to build a building on this, that's not helpful, right? And so you'll lift it up, but then it'll snap again. Oh, fuck, that's annoying, right? To disable that, you can toggle your vertical mode off, right? And now it'll phase through objects. Ooh, that's fucking awesome. Fucking swag, right? Very handy. Next thing is, because they're often used in tandem, it's confusing when both your vertical mode and surface snapping is turned on. And to quickly explain surface snapping, I'm just going to leave surface snapping on. When you have surface snapping on, whatever object you're moving will snap to the ground. It'll snap to the surface. So the map surface, the terrain, the whatever. You can still push an object through it, but it's going to try and snap to the top as best as it can. Some objects don't have the best hitboxes, or the hitboxes aren't defined or whatever, and so they'll like snap to the surface, but then they'll float, and it's like a bit of a pain in the ass. In order to turn that off, you click up here, or you'll see in the preview on the right of its name where it says snapping, there's a backslash. You can press backslash to toggle the feature on and off. What happens is you'll type randomly like I did earlier, which is when I first tried to record this video, but then my mic was turned off, but you'll type in a chat and you'll press the enter key and then also backslash by accident, and you'll tab back into your game and it'll be turned off or on or whatever, and that'll happen sometimes and it'll confuse you. But just so you know, that's something that happens, right? Okie dokie, so that's the basic stuff. If you're just trying to place objects and plates and things like that and merge it into the ground, get a nice flush terrain and a surface to do whatever with, you'll want to turn your vertical mode and your surface snapping off. So you'll want to, this is called vertical mode. I don't know why it's got vertical mode. I don't know why it's called that. Probably has something to do with verticality or some shit. I don't know. It should be called terrain collision, but it's called vertical mode. So terrain collision and surface snapping turned off. Now I can freely place items and objects. And generally, I tend to keep both of these features off unless I need to place something specific, right? Because here's a neat feature about surface snapping, is I can have a thing. This plate counts as a surface now, right? It's a surface because it has a surface, because it has a bounding box. It has like a hitbox that things collide with, and character bounding boxes will collide with and all that stuff. So if I want to put like a cool chair, like a cool and epic chair on something, I mean, obviously, if you click on it, it'll already be there. But let's say you want to move this chair around or whatever, right? Or you have this chair somewhere else, but then you want to put it here and just drag it. If you have surface snapping turned on, it'll just surface snap and drag onto your thing. And then you can move your thing around, do whatever the hell you want with that, right? It's very handy. But yeah, so that's another thing. And a problem that you faced in particular when trying to make scenes like these with objects like these is the problem of, fuck, now I have to line these plates up. Ugh, that's awful. And it is awful. It's terrible. This is shitty, right? This sucks. I don't like this. And there's a better way, and the better way involves clicking the Minecraft crafting table icon, aka the translation grid. Translation grid. Sorry, it's been a long day. But you click the Minecraft crafting table icon, and you can designate different areas. I believe by default it's set to 1 meter. So when I move an object around, it's going to snap in any direction that I choose. So forward, back, right, left, up, down, but in intervals of it's only going to move meter by meter by meter by meter, right? Or I could do half a meter, half a meter, half a meter, half a meter, right? Etc., etc. Or I could do 0.125 meters, which is usually what I have it at when I'm doing things like this, but whatever. You'll notice though that because I got the grid on, but it's not lining up still. What the hell, man? Why isn't it working? I don't know. Well, because this object wasn't placed and it was moved around when I wasn't using the translation grid. So you'll notice if you look at its position, there's a bunch of random values. This is 299, tax 678, and 5862, tax 69. A bunch of random bullshit numbers, right? If I do that, and then I do that, okay, now it lines up perfect, right? Because I moved it with the grid now, and now it's in exact positional values in accordance with the translation grid. So now, if I do that, in particular, I'll just do 1 meter, because it's kind of handy-dandy, and 3AS makes their shit, or generally does a very good job of making their stuff snap together pretty nice. But yeah, so you can now paste objects down, and you can move them and snap them around, and interesting thing about this grid thing, right? Your Minecraft crafting table, you have a rotation grid. You have an equivalent for rotations, and this is by matters of degree. So if you remember fucking geometry class from when you were like 15, this is how you can like rotate things really nice, right? And you have 15-degree angles, and you can do a 90-degree will do a wall, and 45 will be a slope, and blah 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 blah, right? So you can take walls and you can make them into wall, or you can take floors and you can make them into walls, because that's like, you know, floors are like walls for your feet. But anyways, so that's a cool thing. How do I quickly take, like, let's say for example, I don't want to use that prop, but I use a wall prop. We will grab their 3S's generic wall prop, because it's a very good thing to use in this case, right? Hello, we'll grab this wall. This is a cool wall. Cool. Epic. Excellent, perchance, right? That's awesome. I want to take this floor and line it up super nice with this wall. Cool. Not perfect, but it could be better. Oh, another thing too, if you want to select multiple objects, you can do it in a couple ways. One, you can click and drag to select everything. If you want to just click and drag and select just like the base plates, for example, click, hold left control, click, and you can group select. And then if you accidentally select something else, don't panic, you're fine. Hold control, click on it again, deselect, etc. So holding control lets you select and deselect individual objects in a group of selections. Very handy to know, right? So I got my shit approximately lined up. This shit is approximately balling. Now what? I want to take this little scene here that I got, and I want to make more of it. I want more floor. I want more wall. That's awesome. How do I do that quickly? One way is you click, copy, paste, snap, copy, paste, snap. That's good and that works, but it's kind of a ball ache, right? Because that's a lot of fucking around. What you can do is you can select your floors. You can press your spacebar to tab through your widgets, which I mentioned a moment ago, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not misremembering. And you can have your translation widget selected. Press Control C to copy your selection, and then you press and hold Control Shift and V to paste your entire selection exactly where it is. And you can then drag. And then, if you're making a really big floor, you can now exponentially increase the rate at which you are placing floors and stuff. You can very easily and very quickly do this stuff, and it is all made a lot easier with our translation snapping as well. Okay, cool, sick. I got a big ass wall, or I got a big ass floor, so now I can take this big ass like floor and wall, and I can do the same thing. Control C, Control Shift V. In Zeus mode, not in Eden, but in Zeus mode, like when you're playing in a game, this is called deep copying and deep pasting. Well, I mean, you can call it that if you want. I don't know if it's exactly applicable, but that's just the weird word bullshit. Whatever. It doesn't matter too much, right? Okay, cool. Now we have a big floor. There are gaps here now. Fuck, what do I want to do? I don't know, bro. Pillar? Is that an option? Can I get a pillar? Yeah, I can get a pillar. Yeah, there's a pillar. Alright, cool. There's a pillar here now. And then you can take that pillar, you can drag it, Control Shift, Control V, or Control Shift, or Control C, Control Shift V, and you can paste your pillars, and cool, now we have pillars and stuff. That's awesome. Cool, great. Cool. Look how many objects this is. Think about it in your mind, how much longer that would have taken with the regular method. Uh-oh. What do we have here? What's going on here? What's going on? Something weird happening. Why is that? I may be stupid. Oh well, not super big. Probably just made a mistake somewhere, but oh well. But think about in your mind how much longer that would have taken had you done the usual method of, you know, hand place everything, try to line it up. It would have taken a long fucking time, and it wouldn't have been a nearly symmetrical result because you haven't been using the tools, which is fine because no one fucking teaches you this shit. But it's cool, and this stuff is cool. Now you kind of know these things. There's a lot of stuff that's very handy dandy and things that go, well, things that I wish I had known about as soon as I started doing Eden Editor. One thing is these windows. You can press E and R to open and close them. E for left, R for right. Pretty simple. This is your entity list, your entity menu on the, and that's your left box. On the right is your asset list. Very helpful. One thing I mentioned earlier too was a mod called Quick Composition Builder or Quick Composition Editor. I forget which, but I think it was Quick Composition for Eden Editor. But essentially what that lets you do is spawn subcategories. And I know that sounds like meaningless jargon, but what a subcategory is a 3S environment, for example. This is a category. Here's the subcategory that contains all of the stuff, right? And normally, you would click and paste things, and you look at the preview, and sometimes the previews, this is a coincidental example, I clicked something by random, but sometimes the previews fucking lie to you. what is going on here? This isn't blue, it's orange. What the fuck? But that's okay. Because with Quick Composition Editor, you can look at the category and go, ah shit, Tatooine rocks? Alright, I got you. And you can, with the mod installed, press and hold left control and click on the category, and what it does is it pastes a row of every object evenly spaced in that category. And it pastes it all, and you get to just look at the objects and go, ooh, I like that rock, I'm taking that, I'm putting that there. Ooh, I like that rock. Ooh, I can use that rock. Ooh, I can use whatever. And then you can paste it all, and then when you're done with the stuff, you can just get rid of it. All right, cool. Now I don't need that stuff anymore. I got all my rocks that I want to use for this scene that I'm building, and you can place your rocks and stuff into scenes and things like that. That's one thing too. Is like, yeah, you know, you can build fucking you can build whatever you want, dude. Like for example, getting a little off topic, like I like placing rocks and shit, man. It's fun, it's cool, but sometimes I want to make a really specific scene, and there's nothing on the workshop that has exactly what I want to do, or you know, exactly the kind of map or asset or thing that I want to do. So you just make it. You can just fucking make it, dude. If you want to, if you really want to. It takes a while, and it takes a lot of practice and getting used to it. But all this stuff is objects and it's placed, and I'm still working on it, but it's something that I'm excited to fuck around with and play with and do. You know, these are all props and objects and scenes and things like that, but this is the power, the potency of the tool that you have at your disposal, and there's lots of really talented, not only just Star Wars developed teams, like talented people, the people that work on 3AS terrains and the 3AS mod in general, and all of the individual creators that are working on things, you know, Clock and Polly and the people at LS and everything, all these people that are making these really cool things to give out to people to use in the community. There's just even more of that shit in the larger community as well, and they're all making assets that are super helpful and super easy and super useful, and it's literally a giant fucking box of Legos that you get to play with and have fun with. And so the only thing stopping you is Bohemia Interactive and their really weird dog shit control scheme and all of its little intricacies. Like when you press enter, the fuck